Good morning, and we are live on Coffee with Rich. Good morning. My name is Rich Brown. I am the co-host and co-founder of the American Warrior Society and the American Warrior Show, which is America's #1 self-defense podcast. This morning, as you can tell, I'm joined by the esteemed Dr. T.C. Fuller. Good morning, T.C.
Good morning, Rich. How are you today?
I'm better than I deserve. Hey, we got one person jumping on so far. Thank you to everybody that's going to watch this morning. And thank you to everyone that will watch in the replay. We really appreciate it. If you're new to the American Warrior Society or Coffee with Rich, check out AmericanWarriorSociety.com to find out more about my bio, as well as all the things that we have available on the website. We got a great show lined up for you this morning. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I'm getting the Facebook notification that we're live. Let me open it up so we can see what's going on here. Please like and share if you're joining us this morning. And without further ado, Dr. Fuller, looks like we got 20 folks on this morning. If you could remind our guests this morning a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, like I always tell you, my name is T.C. Fuller. I'm from California. I'm a Taurus, and I like long walks on the beach. Originally hail, like I say, from California. Learned to shoot out in California. If it gives you an idea how old I am. And I went to college out there, joined the Army, went off and did that for quite a while. Was a platoon leader in the 1st Gulf War, an infantry platoon leader in the 1st Gulf War. Then finished up as a bomb disposal guy for a few years. Last duty assignment was Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Hoorah. Then was fortunate enough to get into the FBI. Did that for 20 years. Did all kinds of cool jobs there. Worked with some really great folks. Did some really cool things. Then retired here a few years ago to the scenic Carolinas, where I run a business that I founded that does private investigations, executive protection, consulting, and a couple other little things. And here I am now.
Yes, sir, here you are. And also joining us this morning, Robert Bird. Barry Child says, good morning, TC and Rich. Adam is on. Robert Thornberry, good morning. He says coin number 1973. And if you don't know what that is, you're going to have to check out AmericanWarriorSociety.com. Jared out in Montana says TC again. Yes, TC is vying for co-host of Coffee with Rich. Let's see. Rick says, good morning, TC. Good morning, Rich. Adam says, sorry, it's been a while since I caught one of these. Paul is on. Rick is on. Alan is on. Johnny King, Kelly. Wow, got a lot of folks joining us this morning. Thank you to the 28 folks that are on. Please like and share. Got a great show for you. TC was talking to me about a concept the other day. And I said, man, that would make a great Coffee with Rich. So, we've put it together for you, and TC is going to deliver it. So, TC, why don't we jump into it?
All right, then, sir. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got something new going on, and maybe we should talk about that first and how it relates to today's show.
Well, it spurred off of today's show when you and I were discussing it, the concept of the gray man. So this morning I've launched, like 15 minutes ago, I launched a YouTube channel, which is, let's be honest, pretty iffy at this point because I don't have the first clue what I'm doing, but also a website on being a gray man, right? Going through life, low profile. And we'll talk about more of that stuff here momentarily, but really a deep dive because the research that I was doing online, at least, showed that it's kind of an area where people talk about, but there's really the quality of that information runs the gamut, right? From really good to completely clueless. And I can see where if you were considering going that route and doing some research, doing your due diligence, if you will, where it could leave you a little bit confused and out in the wind. So I thought, well, I have some experience in this area, some rather expensive training from Uncle Sam. Perhaps I can contribute to the conversation. So that's where we're going with that.
Well, that's a good segue into as far as defining what the gray man is or going gray and all these phrases for the purposes of our discussion. Can you break those terms down a little bit?
Well, yeah, I can give it a shot. You'll hear this often bandied about by folks who are in the know. It's sort of, for some reason, a mystified phrase that everybody seems to be familiar with. But you really, until you've mastered the art, you really don't know what you're doing. It's kind of the air I tend to get around when people discuss going gray or being the gray man. But as a definition, at least as far as a working definition that I would use, the idea is to simply keep a low profile, right? Go under the radar, go through life without making a spectacle of yourself, comport yourself in a fashion designed to not draw attention. And before your viewers come after me, because I know someone's going to give me a hard time about this, because my friends already have, I get it that it seems a little bit ironic that you're trying to popularize a website and a YouTube channel discussing the idea of not being noticed. I get the irony there. It's not lost. But that's really what we're talking about, because to me, that low profile conduct, I mean, one, it tends to fit in with my personality. But two, it preserves options, right? When you're going through life and you're walking down the street, if you're making yourself noticed, the people that are going to notice you include potential bad actors. And those are not the folks that we want to get involved with. So to the extent we can pass by without their notice, I think we should try and do that. But it also just generally preserves options, right? The bad guy isn't going to get to choose the place and time to attack you if that's his option or the way he wants to go. He still might get you just out of a random sense of, I'm grabbing the first person that walks into my radar. But if he's choosing amongst several potential victims, the more you lower your profile, the less likely you are to run into problems, the less likely you are to have to then deal with those problems.
Yeah, and tell us, TC, and I will tell the audience this morning, I talked to TC before we got on, been to the doctor the other day, and if I leave here in agony, it's because I may be passing a kidney stone this morning. So feeling a little under the weather here, and we'll see how this goes. But if I run off the screen this morning, let me tell you, one of the things that Jared said is kind of funny. He says, low pro like Pat McNamara. Yeah, that's not exactly what we're talking about. And I think that TC, you can break it down for us a little further as far as like, when is it desirable to be a gray man? When do we want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, on the subject of Pat Mac, I'd be cool if I could go through life like him, right? The guy's a beast. He's got a ridiculous number of skills. He's in phenomenal physical condition. For the life he's lived, for him to not have the kind of injuries that you and I are sporting, Rich, is nothing short of amazing. I mean,
amazing.
It really is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of your viewers have this experience, and if you don't, as you get older, you will. You wake up in the morning and, that ankle injury from that jump you did in, back when you were 24 hurts, or that time you fell off the track and landed on your rucksack and your helmet smacked you in the throat. I mean, you start to feel these things a lot more now that you didn't feel before. That guy is a positive freak of nature, right? He can do what he does and go about as he does at his age. Really, golf clap. Well played.
Okay.
Well played. Sadly, that's not me. It's just not. So I can't go through the world the way Pat Mac does. And that's why I don't try. Right? It doesn't fit into my personality as well. So that, which came first, the personality or the injuries and the low profile, I'm not sure which. But as far as when it's desirable to go low profile, or to go gray, if you will, to me, my general default answer is always, right? I just always want to be the guy nobody noticed until I want to be noticed. For the law enforcement types, there are times when you show up on scene and it is now your job to be noticed, right? You need to take command of what's going on. You need to get things straight and get people settled down. A lot of times your victims and you're injured, they want somebody to be in charge. They need somebody to show up and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. This, and this. That's not the time to be gray, right? Leading up to that is the time to be gray. Because again, it preserves your options. It avoids trouble. Is really what it does. It keeps you out of the limelight until you decide to step into that one. And that's what I'm saying by maintaining your options, right? You can choose to get involved. You can choose not to get involved. I'm not a law enforcement officer anymore. You're not a law enforcement officer anymore. That requires a fundamental change in your mindset. It really does. And a lot of friends of mine struggle with that. I've seen them have a hard time kind of realigning the way they go through life. Something breaks bad in front of me now. My job is to be a good witness and or get out of there. My job is no longer to run to the sound of the guns. That's a tough instinct to dump, by the way, for those of you who haven't yet retired. If you know, you know.
Yes, great point. Several law enforcement officers on here this morning. I'm looking down through the list here. Andrew Branca's on. Good morning, sir. Thank you for coming on. Stephen Cruisenberry says, low profile TC, looking good, man. Let's see. James Knowlton, my old friend, he's a police officer out west. Alan Kelly says, lowering your profile, but still being aware of your surroundings. PJ says, great topic to really embrace the gray man approach. So many people forget that situational awareness is such a big component to recognizing exactly how to blend in. This is TC. I'm going to let you decode whatever that may mean.
I can't see it. I'm sorry.
Okay. It says NAC 00 tag 06 here.
Oh, that's NAC, new agent class?
Yeah. I believe that person is an former FBI agent, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, that's what that's the phrase we use in the Bureau of NAC, NAC, new agent class, new academy class. A couple of things you just touched on, I'd like to go back to, Rich, is mindset. A couple of your viewers have mentioned mindset, and it's absolutely key. Of the three considerations in going gray, in my mind, it's mindset, behavior, and appearance. And mindset is crucial. I mean, it really is. You've got to get your mind right. You need to decide, first of all, if you're going to go gray or not. And then you need to dedicate to that. If you decide not to go gray, well, then, hey, good for you. Go with God. Have fun. Live your life. Live your best life. Enjoy yourself. Great. You're probably not going to watch much more of this show. If you do think that going gray is the direction you want to take, there are varying degrees. Let's be honest. You can go completely gray and vanish off the grid. Your former co-host on Across the Peak was really good at that sort of thing.
Yes.
That's not as deep down the hole as I want to go. My wife wants to live a much more gray and vanishing life than I do, but she's still in the harness, right? She's still out there working as a working agent. So I get that. So you can kind of pick and choose where you're going in that direction and what fits your lifestyle, because radical changes to lifestyle are difficult and in some cases quite noticeable. But you got to get your mind right. You got to decide if this is the direction you want to go, and then how far you want to go down that rabbit hole. So, didn't mean to segue off what you were saying there, but
no, it's perfect. So we talked about when it might be desirable. Why would anybody want to do this?
Well, again, to me, it comes right back to, preserving options, right? You want to be gray so that you can choose when and if to get involved. You want to avoid a problem altogether. Avoiding the problem, in my mind, is the number one concern. Stay off someone's radar. They won't cause you trouble, right? But you do need to, going back a little bit to the mindset, is you do need to keep your mind involved. You can't just switch off, right? You go back to Colonel Cooper's color codes, whatever it is that keeps you involved, but you want to keep your head in the game. You want to watch what's going on. You just want to be obvious about what you're doing and who you are. So you want to do it kind of all the time, and you want to do it so that it preserves those options. It keeps you in a place where if you choose to run away, you can run away. If you choose to, fix bayonets in charge, you can fix bayonets in charge. You want to fall on the ground and froth at the mouth, you can froth at the mouth. These are the options you want to keep open, because if you're not gray and the bad guy just sees you and notices you and decides this is your time, this is your day, he's going to do everything he can to reduce your functional options to 0, right? Or to 1, submission. And that's not a good place to be in. I mean, you're confronted with an actual criminal, a violent criminal in particular. Depending upon their mercy that's a tough spot to put myself in. I have a hard time with that, and hoping that this demonstrated criminal is going to let me walk away, let me live. Perhaps they will, perhaps they won't. But that's a decision you have to kind of make in the moment or beforehand, in my mind. Preserving the option to, as early as possible, avoid the problem is the number one priority. And beyond that, if you've been gray up to the moment of decision, you still have the element of surprise. All right. Some people are big on open carry. I absolutely support the right to open carry. You want open carry, that's awesome. I will not do it, right? Because it just makes you too noticeable. I have some sort of philosophical issues for me to do it. Well, one of those issues is it removes the element of surprise. And the element of surprise is a huge force multiplier, absolutely huge force multiplier. Even trained, knowledgeable individuals, when they get surprised, are going to stand there flat-footed for some period of time. It's going to take time to process what's going on and to react to what's going on. And that time is the bad guys. The bad guy gets to act in that time frame where you don't. And in this fight, in a fight, particularly a deadly force fight, time is the single greatest commodity you can have. So to the extent you can preserve your options to the last possible moment and then preserve the element of surprise to the last possible moment, Golden Gray feeds right into that. And for that reason alone, in my mind, I advocate the idea.
All right. Well, let's break down the elements, TC, of being gray. What are they?
All right. Well, you've got, like I said before, you've got mindset, behavior, and appearance. So starting with mindset, you got to make the decision. Do I want to go this route or not? Is this for me? Is this a lifestyle choice I want to pursue? Does it fit in with the way I want to go through the world? And then you have to kind of dedicate doing it. Right? You decide, yep, that's what I want to do, but no, I'm not actually going to do it. It's like me working out 5 days a week, 6 days a week, right? Oh, it sounds like a great idea. I want to do that. Dedicating to it becomes a little bit more difficult. Same thing is true with the Going Gray. Once you decide to do it, you then actually have to dedicate yourself to doing it. And that may require you to modify your appearance, modify your behavior. And that's kind of the important part, right? Putting the decision into action. That's the difficult part. If it's a change in lifestyle, if it's a change in personal appearance, change in behavior, these are difficult things for people to do. And that's kind of where you'll see a falling off. So that kind of says the mindset and making that decision to actually act on it, that becomes the first move you have to make, and it's hard for some people.
Say that part again, TC. The first move, what?
It's the first move you have to make, and it's difficult for some people.
Okay, yeah.
It's hard. I'm sorry, was the microphone cut out on me?
No, not at all. But before you go any further, let's see here. Looks like Mr. Mike Seeklander is on. Says, good morning, folks. Wade is on. Bruce is on. Elke Monroe says, fortunately, Going Gray here in Golden, Colorado area is exactly how most of us self-defenders look. Jeans, flannel shirts, sweaters, and vests. TC looks like a cousin of mine.
Good looking fella, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you, TC.
Not
Where
at all,
were we?
not at all. We got to say hi to the folks that are this dedicated to get up in the morning and watch us. But that inconsistent dedication, if you're not dedicated to Going Gray, that can lead to shifts in the other elements, right? It could be, I'm kind of behaving gray today and not tomorrow. I'm kind of behaving gray as I leave the house, but 10 minutes later I'm not. So you really kind of have to, once you're in, go in. And if you're not, don't. I mean, there's nobody forcing you to do any of this stuff. In terms of behavior, which is the next up on our list, the first thing I can tell you is just avoid stupid places, avoid stupid people, and avoid doing stupid things. I stole that almost verbatim from Andy Bronca, who will then tell you, of course, he caveats that when he says it, is that, of course, most of the fun in life comes from hanging out with stupid people in stupid places and doing stupid things. Former Marines, I'm looking at you. Because those guys are magnets for that kind of stuff. Fun to hang out with, but God, leave before the cops show up.
True.
But you really, when it comes to behavior, live your life quietly, unassumingly. Just be, right? Pardon the language, but don't be a dick, right? Just don't run around mouthing off. Don't be rude to people. Don't be deliberately offensive. Don't be that guy that's always trying to piss someone else off. I was driving yesterday, as a matter of fact. Had my kids in the car, window down, nice day here in the Carolinas. Pulling out of a grocery store parking lot that I go to every day. I look out the window and there's this 20-something kid walking down the street listening to something on his phone. He looks at me. I look at him. We make eye contact. And I'm driving by, right? Haven't stopped, just looking out the window. And he goes, "What the F are you looking at?" I'm like, and of course, part of me right away kind of bows up, right? Hey. And I realized very quickly, come on, who are you kidding? He's having a bad day. I don't need to be a player in his psychodrama. I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be difficult. It's easier as you get older, by the way. The younger me might have reacted in an entirely different fashion, but the older you get, the little bit more sense seems to beat in you. Probably, wisdom's something you get 10 seconds after you needed it, right?
Hmm.
You learn these things from having done stupid things in the past. Another good element of behavior, and again, this won't come as a shock to any of your viewers, is don't break the law.
Yeah.
Okay? That one should be pretty obvious. I mean, let's face it, breaking the law gets you noticed, right? Usually by the people around you, sometimes by law enforcement. And then you end up maybe buckled up, stuffed in a cruiser. Now everybody's looking at you, taking pictures of you. Don't do that. Just don't get involved. Obey the law. Do the right thing. Of course, the caveat to that is know the law. Right? You might want to know the law so it's easier to follow the law. If you're interested in the law of self-defense, I recommend the Law of Self-Defense website with Andrew Bronco.
I 100% agree with that.
That was subtle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But then even if something is technically legal, if it's not courteous, just try to avoid it, right?
Yeah.
Don't go out of your way to be discourteous to people. That's why I really like living in the South. People are just generally courteous. They may say things like "bless your heart" when you're standing there, but which is kind of a loaded phrase I've come to learn since my wife
much
all the time. But at least people are courteous, and that gets you a long way. It gets you an awful long way. Now, if you're courteous to people in New York City, now you've just become noticeable, right? Because it's not common. It's odd. So gauge yourself to your audience. But generally speaking, people will notice and remember discourtesy more than courtesy. So a simple yes and a thank you and a mild smile or a grin, not a leer, but a grin, it gets you a long way, and people just sort of glaze over you.
I was going to say, and the criminal element, or young inner city males, they really value respect more than you may. So you disrespect someone at your own own peril.
Yeah, eye contact, right? I mean, you worked in the prisons, you know what that can do. Just simple direct eye contact can be taken as a challenge with some people. I tend to look people in the eye, but I also generally go about with a smile on my face, or at least I don't have the resting bitch face, right? I try to have a grin on my face, and it gets me a long way. I mean, I can actually stare at people, but if I have sort of a disinterested smile on my face, they just kind of look at me, oh, who's this guy, whatever, and they move on. They don't tend to notice me. And if they do, it doesn't register for long. Just don't go about mean mugging people, right? Mean mugging people, you're going to gain their attention. Because
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because people, they notice you. First thing someone's looking at when they look at you is, are you a potential threat? Right? That's just ingrained into their sort of genetic code. Whether they think about it or not, whether it's a conscious thought or not, is a different animal. But that's the first thing they're looking for. And if you do look threatening, if you are glowering at people all the time, you're scowling and looking like, I'm going to come over there and tear your throat out, that is an attention getter. Right? People are like, oh, okay. Now they look at you more and they assess more. They spend more time staring at you, more time studying you. Now you've gone from unnoticed to noticed, and then you're going to slide into memorable. If they're a bad actor, they may take that as a challenge. The other thing is, so again, don't be obviously aggressive. And don't look threatening at people. That's not to say don't look like a victim either, right? You don't want to run around displaying prey behavior. You don't want your shoulders collapsed and your head down. For God's sake, get your face out of your phone. If you're out moving in public, don't be staring at your phone. There's a whole lot of reasons not to do that. Now, from a going gray perspective, it's especially for the younger generation, that is normal behavior, right? They do expect that sort of thing. But for old guys like us to be stuffed in the phone, that's just a bad idea from a gray perspective. From a victimization perspective, it's always a bad idea.
Yeah. And by the way, real quick, TC, all the links to TC's Old Gray Man website, the Horus group, it's all in today's show notes. Also, thank you to the 43 folks that are joining TC and I live this morning, this beautiful Friday morning. I'm drinking. I got this really cool mug from one of my jiu-jitsu partners. Sent it to me in the mail the other day. I really appreciate that, Michael. Thank you so much for that. Penny says, good morning, Rich and TC. Snowy here. Go woodchucks. Will Parker says, I can only go gray if I shave my mustache. Yeah, that mustache is noticeable a zip code away. My brother Jeff Brown is on. He says, "Can you go so gray that you make yourself a target?" That's an interesting question.
Let's come back to that when we get a chance.
Sure.
I think that you certainly can, Mr. Brown, in terms of displaying prey behavior. If you go so gray that you now look like prey, that's a different animal. I mean, fortunately for you, unless you've shaved those chin whiskers of yours, your beard should be able to hold off a gang of 4 or 5 easy all by itself. It's kind of an impressive display, really. Golf clap on that one too. To the degree that you broadcast, "I'm a victim," yes. All right, don't get into that status. I don't walk around at my age with a ponytail and an earring and tie-dye T-shirt and flip-flops. Although I am from California, I suppose I could get away with that. Because to me, that one, it doesn't fit my personality, who I am, and two, it starts to broadcast I smell like patchouli and I want you to take my money kind of thing. So you do want to be cautious not to go that far down the path, because you're noticeable, right? You don't want to be noticeable. So to the extent that you're gray, you're not being noticed. That's where you want to stay, sort of in that sweet spot. For me, we'll get into this more in appearance, but I try to dress and act like just a regular guy who might be a tradesman, might be someone going to work to, I don't know, hang drywall or work construction or whatever. Because it's casual clothing, it's comfortable clothing, I can move to the extent my ancient body will allow me to move, my beat up old frame that I'm dealing with here. But I can get away. I can, the clothing is comfortable for me. The appearance is one of a guy confidently walking down the street, not looking for a problem, but also not falling all over himself to, be meek and mild. I'm not much of an actor, but to the extent that I am, that's where I cruise around. And I would recommend that as sort of a general guidepost for people, but you got to fit it in with your personality. Let's take Mike Seeklander, right? Hi, Mike. Here's a guy who's a big guy, clearly in shape, shaved head, goatee, has a resting mean mug, right? When you look at him under normal circumstances, Mike looks like a serious guy.
Oh yeah.
Now, how do you pull the edges off of that? Well, it's not easy. It can be done, right? Clothing choices and a grin goes a long way. But he's not going to be mistaken for a victim anytime soon. He might be mistaken for a challenge. That's another issue that you might have to deal with. But you need to be able to fit this into your lifestyle, because let's face it, radical changes to lifestyle are difficult to embrace, and folks a lot of times just won't. You look at the efforts you put into getting people to just carry their concealed carry firearm every time they walk out the door. That's a lifestyle change for some people, and they just won't do it, knowing better, right? They just won't do it. Working out, that's a lifestyle change for some folks that is very difficult to get them to do. They know, look, if I work out, eat right, and drink more water, I'm going to live longer. Yeah, but I've got this bag of Cheetos and there's something cool on Netflix, right? So, I mean, it's difficult to get people to make these changes to their lifestyle. So a radical change we want to, generally try to avoid. I mean, if you're a person that can make a radical change and live with it, rock on, good for you. That was an awfully long-winded answer to your brother's question. I hope I didn't oversell that.
No, good answer, man. So let's talk about, I guess it's time to talk about appearance, right?
Sure. How you dress and how you appear every day, this is a big part of the information you put out to people that see you, right, when you're walking around. So how you dress and appear is kind of a good way to think of it is your urban ghillie suit. It's how you want to blend into the surroundings. It's not that you want to be camouflage when everybody's wearing business suits. You don't want to be wearing like my son has his army pants. He really loves his army pants. He's 5. He can get away with that. If you're walking into a business meeting wearing, your army pants and you're not in the military, it's going to be noticeable. So your appearance to that regard is going to support your behavior, but it also needs to be appropriate to your surroundings. Just as your behavior needs to be appropriate to your surroundings, the way you dress and appear needs to be appropriate to your surroundings. And I want to make sure that we underline appearance as opposed to dressing, because appearance is the whole gestalt, the whole mosaic that is you, right? Your hair, your facial hair, your clothing, your shoes, the bag you're carrying, all of it. It's how you sound, your voice, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious to the people in my community that I'm not from around these parts, because I don't have the generations of Southern accent built into my voice. Got more of a non-regional. And it took me a long time to dump the dudes. I got to be honest. Growing up on a beach in California, all right, dude. I really sounded like Jeff Spicoli for a long time. It took a while to get rid of that. But these are things that make you memorable, that make you stand out. And again, if you want to stand out, stand out. But the whole idea behind being great is you choose, right? It's the option that you maintain. How you smell, some people make a big deal out of it. Oh, how you smell really impacts going gray. My counter argument to that is, once they are so close to me that they can smell me, I'm either on their radar or I'm about to be already, just because of proximity. We're that close to each other. That being said, don't be the stinky guy when everybody else smells like, fresh roses, and don't be the fresh rose guy when everybody else is stinky. Right? It is pretty easy to spot the guy who just got to the field when you've been there for a month, and he shows up all clean shaven and smelling like, eau de toilette. But it's also, appearance also impacts, by the way, not just the backpack that you're carrying, but what you drive, how you drive it. That falls into behavior more. How your house looks. Right? In my particular house, I live in a little suburb in a safe part of town, in a safe state. Very nondescript house. We've got enough flowers and things to look like everybody else. But if you were driving down the house and say, okay, find TC, driving down my neighborhood, and somebody told you find TC's house, you'd be hard pressed. There are no stickers in the window saying, the gun waving around and telling you, come in here at your own risk. I don't have any of that garbage. In my car, this is going to be a tough one for you Marines. There are no Eagle, Globe, and Anchor stickers on my car. That's always the first question I ask for my Marines. How many EGAs you got in your truck? I never get zero. It's very strange. Never get zero. There are a couple of small things on my car, but I made sure that they are the same color pattern as the original paint. So you've really got to get up on it and see it. There's nothing on my car that's going to tell you that I've got guns, because guns are dangerous and I don't have guns. Mm-hmm. There's nothing on there that's going to raise my profile. You wouldn't, like I said, be able to drive down my neighborhood and spot my house. I've been to your house, Rich. The same is true of yours. It's a nice country home on a road full of nice country homes. There's a lot of land around them. People see your house, they say, oh, look at all the nice big yard. I look at it and say, oh, look at all the nice clear lanes of fire. But it's a difference in perspective. But appearance is key, right? So start with how you personally look, right? Get your hair cut if you're not living on a beach in Mazatlan. That includes, facial hair. Facial hair is more of a thing now than it was 15 years ago, right?
Yeah. You
see a lot more men in beards, and goatees, because they're 1995 said it was stylish, and I just haven't changed. Your personal hygiene, just generally take care of yourself, right? Be clean and tidy. But your clothing, obviously, in your appearance, does broadcast information. So to the extent that you can control the information you're broadcasting, you want to do that. So don't try to stand out from your environment. Blend with your environment. I've got pictures, I think I'll put them up on the website, of me when I was doing work in Afghanistan. And not a lot of them, because you're generally too busy to take happy snaps. Excuse me. But I've got some pictures of me with full Mouge beard, turban, AK, man jammies, because we were out doing stuff that required me to look like that. And I fit in. As long as I didn't speak, I was fine. Good news there is the racial makeup in Afghanistan is so diverse. Because it's been invaded so many times. There's a lot of various genetic markers in there that a white guy wasn't odd. Again, by the time he got that close to me. I've got pictures of me working violent criminal activity when I was in the FBI, where I'm dressed up like I'm going to a biker bar. Yeah. So what we said earlier about keeping your mind right, keeping your mindset straight, keep your mind engaged. Well, that's what you need to do when it comes to your appearance. Think. Just put some thought into it, right? A lot of times we just walk into the closet. We've got a million other things vying for our attention. Just grab some clothes, throw them on, move out. Think about where you're going. Think about what you're going to do. In my case, I just generally buy clothes that are decent because I can. I don't want to dress like a hobo. But they will generally fit into that category no matter what I'm doing, where I'm going, generally speaking. Now, if I'm going into a meeting with, bank president or something, then I'll throw on a suit. But my everyday casual wear is just that, everyday casual wear. So pay attention to these things, right? Is a suit appropriate today? Are you going to be crawling around in cars today? Do people where I'm going have beards? Are they clean shaven? Do they have a diabolical pencil thin mustache? Whatever you need to do, then dress and appear appropriate. Backpacks are a big one. Oh, good Lord, backpacks. The good news is more people are wearing them and carrying them around. Men especially are carrying them around more often. That's awesome. Makes things easier. But the EDC backpack, covered in Molly gear and morale patches and tourniquets hanging off of them, you're sending a message. And maybe that's the message you want to send. And if that's the message you want to send, cool. May your gods watch you and protect you. To me, the only time that you can really get away with that is actually in the SHOT Show or actually in the Blade Show. Mm-hmm. Going to and from there, it's funny to me because I have a bazillion backpacks. If you don't believe me, ask my wife. She'll tell you. I've been carrying bags of various sorts since, my map case in the infantry back in the day. I have a bazillion of these things. And the ones I carry now are as plain Jane civilian looking as I can possibly get. I have, a Filson bag that's I love and looks just like a bushcrafting bag. It's just a big voluminous rucksack. Canvas, nothing tactical about it at all. Got another one that's Jansport or something. It works fine for daily carry. It's how I configure it on the inside. It's a little bit different, but it doesn't broadcast and scream, hey, this guy's armed or this guy is, someone to be reckoned with. I have my Cool Guy water bottle with my stickers on it, right? The only time I carry this is in the gym. My hand is usually on it, and most of the stuff, they don't know what they're looking at. They should know what they're looking at because it's pretty cool, but they don't. And I don't have any stickers on things that say, kill them all, God will know his own. I don't have any of that shenanigans because I don't want to send that message to people. Is that long enough winded?
No, that was perfect, man. And I know we've got more questions, TC, but I think your old pal Rich Brown is in a lot of pain. So if it's all right with you, sir, let's do part 1 and part 2 of the Gray Man, because I think we've got so much more to unpack. I think we gave him a good foundation to start with. You talked about appearance, behavior, mindset, all the stuff, why it would be desirable to be gray, how we do it, when we would do it. A lot of good stuff to unpack today. I would really like to have you on. Let's do a part 2 if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got time. I know you're hurting, brother. I do not envy you for this. I'm sure your audience will understand that it's time to take some oxy and pass out. I feel for you. Thanks for hosting this morning, man.
Where can they find you at, TC?
Easiest way now is theoldgrayman.com. You can email me there, or you can email me at tc@theoldgrayman.com. The YouTube channel is up. I don't know how well it's working. I can't swear to that. I will get better at it. I promise you. I'll try to post content once a week there talking about this topic. It's going to involve not just mindset, appearance, behavior issues, but also some equipment that I find that works well for a prepared individual, someone who wants to be ready for whatever weird turns life takes, but also wants it low profile, doesn't want to be obviously a tactical Timmy, doesn't want to scream to the world, I'm, a ninja warrior operator and ready for death and destruction at all times. I didn't mean to get long-winded, Rich. I know you got to get out of here and get some pain meds. So thank you again. Thanks, folks, for coming in so early and taking the time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, TC. And remember, guys and gals, the fight is coming. Be ready.